Segue, to continue at once with the next musical selection or composition.
Segue, to make a transition directly from one section or theme to another.
To move smoothly and unhesitatingly from one state, situation, condition, or element to another.
Segue, to perform in the manner of the preceding section.
Segue, to make a transition from one thing to another smoothly and without interruption.
This is Segue with Dean Aldemaro Romero, a weekly program exploring the lives and work of the people of the College of Arts and Sciences at Southern Illinois University, Edwardsville.
Hello everybody. Professor Nazli Aggun was born in Samandağ, Turkey. She is working on her master's degree in English language teaching at Chak University, and today she is a Fulbright visiting scholar at Southern Illinois University, Edwardsville, where she is teaching Turkish. Welcome to Segue, Professor Aggun.
Thank you.
Well, reading your resume, I noticed that your real interest is in learning how to teach English.
Yes.
So how come you became interested in trying to teach a language different than your original one?
It's not very, very different, in fact. I mean, when you are teaching any languages, it is the same idea, like to introduce the vocabulary and practice it, study grammar, and use 4 skills like writing, reading, speaking. So it's not very different. I didn't have any difficulty teaching Turkish. So it's like basically similar to how to teach English.
So you're saying from the pedagogical viewpoint, from the methodological viewpoint of teaching is the same thing?
Yeah.
Okay. But now you are in the United States and you are teaching Turkish. Why is that?
Yeah, this is interesting. I have 4 students, in fact, and it's nice that to see that there are people who are interested in Turkish, and also my students are very interested in Turkey politics and culture, family, food. They want to learn everything, and I really feel very happy to teach about this kind of stuff. So it's fun. I like it.
Okay. Now, how it worked out for you to come to this country to teach Turkish? What was the process?
I applied Fulbright. I was teaching English in a university in Turkey, and I decided that I wanted a study abroad experience. And because when I'm teaching the English language to my students, I need to mention about culture. I need to mention about people perspective and everything. It's like it's never only language. It's also culture and country. Sometimes you need to even mention about the climate of this country to teach some kind of vocabulary. So I really need that. I as an English instructor, I have to go abroad, study, live there, experience it. Okay. So I applied Fulbright. I wrote personal statement, and I wrote 5 essays. And when I was chosen, I was very happy. And Fulbright, they put me here in Edwardsville University. Mm-hmm. So this was the process.
Okay. Now, talking about experiences, I just noticed that today you learned a new word in English, which is the title of this show. Segue.
Yeah, that's true. I every day learn a new word, really. Like, for example, I'm taking African American literature, and it's like, oh my gosh, it's like learning a new language. We are reading Kelson Whitehead's books, and he's using lots of unknown vocabulary for me. So it's almost like learning Spanish and memorizing the words.
Okay. Now, Turkish is a language obviously spoken mostly in Turkey, but this is spoken by over 63 million people. Mm-hmm. I don't think people realize that there are so many people who speak that particular language.
Yeah, because there's Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, and Tajikistan, and they are speaking not the Turkish in Istanbul. They are speaking different dialect. We still understand each other if we speak slowly, and we understand each other. But it's not like it's not like the same Turkish. Because, for example, Turkey has been influenced by Arabic, Persian a lot. But on the other hand, the other countries, they have got different history. They could be influenced by Russian. So it's like, there are lots of people speak Turkish, but different dialect of Turkish.
Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned that because I read that Turkish is an old language, about 1,300 years old, but actually originated in northern Mongolia. So it wasn't in what is Turkey today. Don't you find that interesting?
Yeah, it's interesting. But this is where also Turks came from. This is the place they came from, to Anatolia. So it's not. I mean, this was motherland for them in ancient history, and yeah, this is how. I mean, it's not surprising, and Turkish is keeping growing. Like maybe these times it was like it didn't used to have so many vocabulary, but after they moved to Anatolia, they were influenced by Islam, and they start to read the Quran, and it was like Ottoman Empire, and they almost like the same country with they were living in the same country with Arabs and Persian. So it's like really Turkish grew up.
Okay.
And still now there are many vocabulary from English.
Okay. So it is an evolving language, but probably one of the most dramatic changes in modern Turkish was in 1928 when Ataturk basically decreed the change from the Ottoman script to the Latin script.
Yes.
Are there people in Turkey who are still fluent to read the Ottoman script instead of the Latin script?
No, there are people that can do both of them. And in school, for example, in Turkish language and culture, we have got Turkish language culture departments, and people read both of them. And other than that, other than the schools or the universities, no, people don't read. I mean, there are people that they want to learn Quran and they know the alphabets, but I can say like the majority, they forget it. They don't know the Ottoman Turkish.
Yeah.
Except to schools and universities and programs.
Okay. Now, I mentioned earlier Ataturk, but I don't think most people outside Turkey understand the tremendous impact that Ataturk had on the history of Turkey. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, firstly, it was Ottoman Empire, and then Ataturk was considered to be the leader of Turkish Republic. It was Ottoman Empire, and then it became Turkish Republic. And it changed a lot because during the Ottoman Empire, it was just the Ottoman family in the rule of the country. But then, like people, it was Republic, Turkish Republic country. And then, as you said, that Ataturk changed the alphabets and changed the time thing, like how to measure time, and he want them to be similar with Western countries so that we could communicate with Western countries better. We can trade with each other. We can, be in touch easier. So, and also he wanted it to be secular. Like he wanted, religious is, you can do it at home, but not in
the public.
In public, not in public, not like in the parliament. We don't want to rule our country with religious and Islam. So it was like huge, very big difference between Ottoman Empire and Turkish Republic country.
And actually, Ataturk means the father of Turkey.
Yeah. This is how he's considered.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, so he wanted to mostly Westernize.
Yes. This is what he tried to do. Yeah.
Yet the structure of the grammar in Turkey is different to the structure that we're accustomed in English. For example, you use the subject, object, verb structure. To give an example, John food ate. Will be the structure. So you put first the subject, the object, and then the verb at the end.
That's true.
When you are teaching your students Turkish, do they have difficulty understanding that structure?
I am lucky because 3 of my students, they already had got other foreign languages. For example, one of them, she is Spanish major. She can, I think she speaks good Spanish. So Turkish is her the third language she's learning. The other one, she learned Russian, and she studied Spanish a little bit. So Turkish is almost her fourth language, and the other one is he studied Spanish and Chinese, or what was that? Mongolian. So like my students were like pretty experienced.
Okay.
And they, with the languages, if you can speak one language, and it's like if you learned a language before, speaking the second language or the third language is easier. In this sense, I was lucky.
Okay. Now, another characteristic of the Turkish language is that there is no grammatical gender.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay. Give us an example of how it would sound in English to use no grammatical gender when you use it in Turkish.
For example, if you say she is going, and in Turkish you say o gidiyor, but you don't understand if who's going. Is this person a woman or a man? You don't know. You need to ask if you want. Clarification, and if the gender is important, unfortunately, you have to ask, or you need to wait for other. You need to wait to guess from the context. Otherwise, unfortunately, no. There's.
Okay. Now, as you mentioned earlier, the Ottoman Turkish was a mixture of Turkish, Persian, Arabic. Okay. Now, because of a policy on assimilation, also Kurdish was prohibited to be used in public. And that has had a lot of political ramifications.
Yes,
so
that's
tell us
true.
about that.
That's true. Really, talking about Turkey is so complicated and so difficult because there are really different kind of people. Like, as I said, some people would think that, Turkey is very Islamic country. But then if you go to Istanbul, you will get surprised, like how people, they look like one of a city, Europe. Yeah. And so it's really mixture of everything. And when we talk about Turkey, it's not only Turks. For example, my ancestors are Arabs. We are Arabic, and I can speak Arabic. So I have got Kurdish friends, and in my city, my hometown, we have got Armenian village, and we have got also, Kurdish villages. So yeah, there are different kind of, and during Ottoman Empire, things were good, but then after the Republic of Turkey, Atatürk just wanted to make it nationalized, saying, okay, we are in Turkey, we are all Turks. But then on the other hand, Kurdish say, no, we want to speak Kurdish also. So there was a kind of struggling, between Turks and Kurdish. But now it's like they have the right to speak Kurdish in the schools again. Okay. So it's complicated. It was a problem. Now it's not a problem anymore. But the other think the religious things start to be a problem, and who's religious, who's not. Those kind of stuff start to become very important in Turkey just in last 5 years, but 15 years ago it was Kurdish problem. Yeah. So it's complicated. Okay.
Now you mentioned there have been some changes in the last few years in Turkey, because Turkey was always, since Atatürk, a very secular country. But in the last few years you have had a more conservative government that basically is bringing back some of those ideas and values into the governance of the country. And I was wondering if that kind of turning back to the past may mean that the Ottoman Turkish may be reinstated by the current government.
No, I don't think so. Because we grew up in a country religious shouldn't be in parliament. And even some people were complaining about that. This has been so far this was the situation. religious was not so. But now the government is trying to push, but I don't think they can push it to this point. People wouldn't let that. I don't think people is going to accept with that, because there are 50% of Turkey, like they don't want that. They don't want to be ruled with religion, and they are sure about that. And maybe you know about Gezi Park. People protested the government in the streets, and they really wanted to make it clear we don't want this kind of thing. But I don't know how much is the government is willing to push people to do that. How are they going to force this? So I don't know, but I'm not so pessimistic about that.
About those protests that you just mentioned about that park, that make headline news everywhere. But some people thought, well, why they're making this big thing about just a park that created international news? Can you give our audience a little bit of context of what happened there?
Well, there were some protests like before, like people would protest stuff, but the government would put them in prison or would shut them. For example, in Turkey there are many journalists in the prisons just because they told their opinions or wrote their opinions. So the government has been doing it for so long time because people are trying to complain or trying to talk about their opinions, but somehow they have been shut up by the government. But then the Gezi Park, it was like, okay, this is enough. Like, you cannot just, this is the only very small park in Istanbul, and this is the only green area. And the government, wants to cut the trees. And people didn't want that, and this was the point, like, say, no, this is, you cannot do that. Like, you cannot just cut the last 3 or 4 trees in Istanbul, in the heart of the city. If you cut it, then there will be no trees, no park.
And what were the plans of the government for that park?
Unfortunately, it's so sad, to build a shopping mall.
So it was all about money.
Yeah, this is the worrying part. And people said, no, we don't want. This is the reason I am optimistic, because it's like, it is so beautiful to see people to say that we don't want shopping mall. We don't need that. We need trees. We need to walk in this park. And they really wanted to
Okay. Now, there is something called the Turkish Language Association that tries to keep the purity of the Turkish language. So my guess is this works like the language academies like the one in Spain or France or Italy that are producing the dictionary, that is official dictionary with words that should be used and words that shouldn't be used. Is that the way it works in Turkey?
Yeah, that is it, but I don't think they are very hardworking at that. Unfortunately, there are many words that come from English. Like, okay, we are really trying to learn English as a country. It is a very good thing. But if you are speaking your mother tongue, it must be your pure mother tongue.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, our vocabulary full of like CD or technology or declare. Like some people start to use declare this word, like o declare etti, or they say start. Like, come on, like start. It has got meaning in Turkish. It means başlamak, başlangıç. But people want to look Western. They want to look cool, so they are so willing to use English words.
Okay.
But I have a question for you. For example, do you speak another language?
Yes, I do.
What do you speak?
I speak Spanish and I have knowledge of other languages like Catalan or French or Italian or German. I went to a German school, actually.
Okay, so what is CD? What the CD means in...
Compact disc.
It's English.
Yeah, it's English.
In Spanish, how about in Spanish?
They call it CD.
CD.
Which is how do you pronounce CD in Spanish.
Okay, so what do you feel about that? Don't you feel...
No, it's funny because in many countries in Europe, and Spain is an example of that as well, Germany, they don't have problems accepting English words. In France, they do have a campaign to avoid accepting English words. For example, even when they installed the McDonald's restaurants in Paris, France, they told the company you have to use words other than Big Mac or things like that.
Oh,
they
my
have to
gosh.
use French words. So it's a nationalistic type of thing what's going on in France. But I would say in the rest of the world, pretty much, they accept that. They may pronounce it as they will pronounce it as they read it in their own language. But obviously, they are pretty open to accept that. In fact, there are certain words for which there are no translation in Spanish. Software, hardware. So guess what? People say software, hardware. Now, another thing I think complicates in the case of Turkish is the fact that there are many dialects
Yes.
in Turkey. And how many dialects are there? Are there catalog in a way that you can tell how many of them are?
Unfortunately, I don't know. I'm sure there are. I need to Google it.
Okay. Probably our audience will do that.
But in Turkey, it's like the differences in Turkey. It's not big. Like people, like it changes a little bit.
Yeah.
Like it is in the U.S. Like there's southern accent.
So it's
and
more
west.
an accent.
It's like accent. That's
yeah.
it. Oh no, yeah. But outside of Turkey, if you think about Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan, Tajikistan, yes, they have got different dialects.
Now, you said that you are originally from hundreds of miles away from Istanbul, right? When you go to Istanbul, people can tell immediately, oh, she's not from here, she's from that part of the country because of your accent?
Let me think. Some people are really good at that they can say, oh, this person is from the east part of Turkey, this person is from west part of Turkey, stuff like that, yes. But it's not very obvious. It's like the same difference in the U.S. It's similar in this sense. Like if somebody speak like with South accent, I think Southern accent, people would know that, right?
Yes,
like
absolutely.
or Washington
or New Yorkers.
New Yorkers
you can
accent.
tell,
It is the same, like this.
Okay, excellent. Now, one of the most complicated things in any grammar in any language is how verbs are conjugated. Do you have that issue with Turkish that there are many conjugations for verbs depending upon the tenses in which you are using them?
There are so many suffixes. I can shortly say that Turkish is a summary, Turkish is a real language of suffixes. So if you want to add tense or pronouns or possessive, all of it with suffixes. So a short word could be like, let's say, gel, it means come. But then you can make it very long, like saying gelebiliyorum. It's all suffixes. This is the way it works in Turkish.
Okay. Now, this has been your first semester teaching Turkish here in the U.S. How much of an interest have you found among the students to learn Turkish?
Unfortunately, not much. People at Southern Illinois University. There are some students that they are very aware about other countries, other cultures. They want to know about it. But there are also certain population on the campus that they are not even interested what is going on in the next city.
Yeah. Okay. Do you think that also the fact that unlike other languages like Spanish or Arabic or even Chinese, that people can see a practical use of them in the modern world. You think that they think, well, maybe Turkish is not something that a lot of people speak, so I'm not interested in that.
But I don't know Turkish. For example, I would suggest it for history majors because Turkey is like Anatolia. Let's say it's the cradle of. It's like open museum. Yeah. Full of history and stuff. Like I have got my history student. I say, hey, you should keep going, learning Turkish. You should go to Turkey. You should see all these museums and historical sites, and it will make you excited. Like I'm sure there's or if you are a business major, still you can. I mean, relationship between the U.S. and Turkey is very good. So if you're a business major, still you can find a job for you to do with Turkey.
The other thing probably a lot of people don't realize is all what is the western coast of Turkey was part of the Greek world thousands of years ago, and many of the cities like Pergamon and all those sort of things were part of the ancient culture of Greece. So what you're saying about history
Troy.
makes a lot of sense.
Troy is in Turkey.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Okay. There has also been this tension in the relations between Turkey and Greece for many years. And I wonder if these things, as well as the changes that are occurring in Turkey political landscape, make students in your class to ask you questions beyond the Turkish language, just about Turkey. Do they ask you about things, how things are in Turkey, how women are in Turkey, that kind of things?
My students?
Your students,
My students, yeah, of course. They are really very, very
What are the typical questions they ask you?
For Turkey,
about Turkey, yeah.
Let's see. I really like my students. They were really interested in Turkey, and they asked me many questions. I think the food, I showed them some picture of food, and they really got excited because I was trying to persuade them to come to Turkey and just show the pictures of food. Yes. And they're like, "Oh, what is this?" Yeah. And Turkish coffee, for example, or Turkish delight, or how we eat as a family. Yeah. It's very important. You cannot just grab your plate from the kitchen and go to your corner. You have to sit on the table with your father, mother, sisters, and brothers. And it's something still, this is something very important. And my students find it amazing, because I think they maybe live with 3 or 4 people in a house, or they are very busy. They don't have time to eat together. So this kind of things look very basic or very unimportant to me. I found that it's very interesting for my students. For example, just the example, I didn't know that my students would find the way we eat interesting.
Okay. Well, in the 30 seconds or so that we have left, I wanted to ask you, what is that you expect to take as an experience that you have had in the United States back to Turkey?
Let's think. I think you use in term of school. People use technology here a lot. I really trying to observe it very well, because this is also my topic for my thesis, using technology. So I'm really careful with that. What can I learn here, and when I go back, what can I do?
Well, thank you very much for this interesting conversation about Turkish and Turkey. And next week, we're going to have a theater performance for a lifetime in a special show of Segway. So stay tuned.
This has been Segway with Dean Aldemaro Romero, a production of the Department of Mass Communications at Southern Illinois University, Edwardsville. All rights reserved, 2014.